Truthfully, what happens is, as children grow up, we start to educate them progressively from the waist up. And then we focus on their heads and slightly to one side.
I think in the old days, you were better off. Because nowadays, they're all specialists. Everyone's becoming better and better. And less and less. And eventually someone's going to be superb. And nothing.
Our education system has mined our minds in the way that we've strip mined the earth for a particular commodity. And for the future, it won't serve us. We have to rethink the fundamental principles on which we're educating our children.
We're not here to tell everybody that they're wrong and we're right. We're not saying that we have all the answers, but we'd like to present a different way of looking at it.
Now, Emily, I'm glad in a way that we're remotely talking with each other at the moment, because I fear you may stand up and snap my head off or something of an angry nature towards this question. But I must ask it because it's something that, as a Teach Now graduate, I've come across, and people have asked me when I've been talking about the program, and then I'll lay it down to you. Here's one way of asking it: is the Teach Now certificate program a real teaching certificate? Let me ask it another way. Is the Teach Now program a scam or a legitimate teaching program? Or let me ask it another way. Will the Teach Now program be taken seriously by employers and things like this? Or do they fare a more traditional college or school program? And then the last one is that kind of muddles into this is, why is it so damn cheap? Now, there's many ways you could answer this, but I think you are the most perfect person to give us the juice on this one. So let's start. On your website, before you begin, you have a frequently asked questions bit, and then there is a question: is this a real teaching certificate? And the first word is absolutely. So calm down and stay calm, because I know you've been faced with this many times, but please tell our listeners what's going on here.
Well, I actually don't get upset at that question. I Teach Now is the best, most highly credentialed program for the preparation of teachers on the planet. And I say that with modesty. Teach Now could not have been created by a 35-year-old startup guy because he or she would not have known all of the hurdles and hoops and obstacles in the way of creating a legitimate teacher preparation program that is credentialed and highly regarded. I was able to do that only because I was 70 years old when I started it, and I had spent 40 years of my life in the teacher preparation and certification space. I made my living literally uncovering state-by-state certification requirements. I made my living doing database reports on trends in teacher preparation and certification. I made my living reporting on the entities that credential institutions of higher education, that credential and accredit and license institutions to even exist. So I knew going into Teach Now that it had to be legitimate and that it had to jump through, as we say in the US, those hoops and over those hurdles. So we did that first. You know, we checked those boxes and we got those approvals and we got those accreditations. So there's no teacher preparation program on the planet, literally, that is more highly accredited than Teach Now. So I don't bristle at that question.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that people wonder about is it is so innovative and it is so unique. It won't always be. I mean, I'm smart enough to know that what we're doing will be replicated. The advantage we have is that we didn't use Blackboard or Moodle or Campus or any of the already existing learning platforms. We built our own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we do have intellectual property that, aside from the program that gets people teaching licensed, is valuable in and of itself. But it is legitimate. I think the name is sort of off-putting to people because, like, what is Teach Now?
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I think we
Yeah.
thought at one time about changing its name to Atria. Atria is a planet out there in the universe that's 23 times the size of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just had some obtuse name, I think it would probably be more credible to people than Teach Now. It's like, what is that? So I think the name is probably somewhat of a quizzical thing that pops up in people's minds. Can that possibly be legitimate? And then when you have Teach Now Graduate School of Education, it's like, what is that? Who ever heard of such a thing? But to answer your direct question, it is legitimate. It is credentialed. It's got all the imprimaturs and then some that any institution preparing teachers needs to have. The brilliance of Teach Now is that the people who have founded it and who have created it know this industry and wrote the books about it. So we know exactly what's required, and we've done those things. The beauty of Teach Now is that we were able to go back to the drawing board and start from scratch and say nothing has ever existed. And we want to create a program focused on preparing tomorrow's teachers for tomorrow's students in tomorrow's learning world that leads to a full, regular teaching license in a state in the United States. There are 196 countries in the world, and only 4 of them countrywide require that teachers be certified or credentialed. And what's happening is that other countries are turning to the United Kingdom and the United States, which are the biggest producers of teaching certificates, and saying, get a teaching license from any state in the US. And we knew that market existed. And so we've chosen to be an approved program in states that are friendly to non-US citizens.
Right.
Not all states are friendly to non-US citizens. Teach Now has worked with states and is working with some more that are friendly to issuing legitimate teaching licenses to people who are not even US citizens. And that's a fast-growing market for Teach Now. So the whole legitimacy and credentialing question we knew from day one, and we checked all the boxes that need to be checked, and you will not find a more legitimate program or one that is thought more highly of by the entities that matter in terms of determining legitimacy than Teach Now. Now, your question about cost, when I set out to create Teach Now, I did not set out to create a short, fast, cheap program. I set out to create a game changer in the industry. I set out to create the best teacher preparation program on the planet. And I set out to create a solution, not a competitor. It was the original intent was to create a program that prepared tomorrow's teachers for tomorrow's students in tomorrow's learning world all over the world. And we did start from scratch. And it turns out that the 9 months of the program was all it takes. You can create the ideal program and have people go through it in 9 months. The cost of it doesn't cost any more than $6,000 to get a legitimate, highly regarded teacher preparation program leading to a full regular teaching license and make a profit. So the efficiency of the program, the length of it, and the cost of it were byproducts of creating the best.
Are you looking to further your career in education? Teach Now offers a convenient online teacher preparation and master's degree program completed anywhere in the world.
Reach now for Teach Now. Ain't no time for defeat now. Teachers get off your seats now. Future generations need you now.
Work with people all over the world in a collaborative, activity-based teaching environment.
To learn more, visit teach-now.edu.
Expertise that is really outside of the box.
Moving from the micro to macro, Emily, I mean, in my case, my personal situation, as I said earlier, I've been through the Teach Now program. I've gone through all the modules. I've done my clinical practice. I've passed my exams. I have an accredited teaching license from Washington, D.C. in America. And as a testimony personally to Teach Now's legitimacy and its high standards, I was actually personally able to convert my US DC teaching license to a fully approved British teaching qualification known as QTS, qualified teacher status. And without graduating, of course, from your Teach Now program, that just wouldn't have been possible with me being out here in China. So, I say to all those trolls out there, get back under your bridges and pick on some other goats. How about that? Yeah. And then on top of that, I've been given this by my researchers. You guys, you do an alumni survey, which is conducted annually after a graduate finishes a program. You also do an employer survey, Emily, where you collect data on, the perceptions of principals about the competence of your program based on the graduates that they may have working in their school space. I mean, these things are also absolute first-hand evidence of the legitimacy of your program. And I think we must end this question for those out there that, are very methodical and like to know exactly what accreditation means. I want to just go through exactly who you're accredited with, because it's quite a list, Emily. So I don't know, do you want to do, I've got certain things here more than me about, the Council for the Accreditation of Educator Preparation. I believe Teach Now remain the only online program that have ever been accredited by this institution. Would that be correct?
It was until recently. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. It wasn't the only totally online program that was accredited by the Council for the Accreditation of Educator Preparation, fondly known as CAPE.
Yes.
Recently, they have accredited another online program, but until recently, we were the only one.
Okay, and then we have the. Would you pronounce this acronym as DIAC?
DIAC.
The Distance Education Accrediting Commission. And then we have the National Council for State Authorization and Reciprocity Agreements.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
NC Sarah.
Right. Yeah. The way it works is DIAC, the Distance Education Accrediting Commission, is one of the few national accrediting bodies in the United States, and it has been around for a while. It used to be called the Distance Education Training Commission, when correspondence schools existed. So that's ancient history. But it's a national accrediting body recognized by the U.S. Department of Education, which is what matters most. And we sought to get accreditation by them early on, and will be up for a 5-year renewal in January, which we anticipate getting. That's the big one that accredits institutions of higher education. Yeah.
Okay, I see. And to finish off, we must mention the OSSE, OSSE, although I've just probably made that up. The Office of the the Office of the State Superintendent for Education, based in DC, Washington, DC. And then, of course, we have the Arizona Department of Education, based in Arizona. Now, these would be the two institutions from two, what you called earlier, friendly states that are happy to look at licensing non-US citizens outside of America. Correct, Emily?
That is true. And in increasing numbers of states, which we're applying to be approved for, will as well. But the District of Columbia, Office of the State Superintendent of Education, is the first state office that we applied to be accredited by and to issue a teaching license from. People need to understand all over the world that in the U.S., the entities that issue teaching certificates, or sometimes called licenses and sometimes called credentials, are state entities. We don't. No institution of higher education, no college, no university, no program issues teaching licenses. That has to come from a government entity. And in the US, that's the state departments of education. So that's what DC OSSE is, the District of Columbia Office of the State Superintendent of Education. And that's the first state that we sought to be an approved program in, leading to a regular license, because we also talked DC at that time, the District of Columbia at that time, into granting teaching licenses to non-US citizens, which is, yeah. And then that we got approval there in February of 2013. And then in September of 2013, we also got approval from the state of Arizona. And between those two states, we were very careful in these decisions. Between those two states, all subject areas and all grade levels are covered. So a person can get a teaching license in almost any field at any grade level through one of those two states by virtue of going through the Teach Now program. We're also in the process now of applying for approval in the state of Hawaii, which is very, very friendly to international candidates.
Okay. But I have to say, Emily, go back to those days when you were knocking on the doors of those institutions in Arizona and DC. I mean, that was groundbreaking stuff, what you guys were doing. You were the first ones to create this idea that it could actually happen, that people like myself outside could get an official license from outside of America, right? So, a big thanks for you guys being the real trendsetters for this.
Well, we're thrilled to do it, and knew that market was out there. And Teach Now has really, really very quickly become an international program. 2/3 of the people who are in Teach Now are abroad. They're not in the US. So there are a lot of US citizens who've gone abroad to teach because they didn't want to have to go back to college and go through 4 years or even 2 years of sitting on a campus and taking courses in order to get a teaching license. So they went abroad and got TOEFL certificates or whatever they needed to teach generally English as a second language, and fell in love with teaching and decided, well, wait a minute, I got my degree in biology. I'd really like to teach biology. But they need a teaching license in order to do that. So we're really fulfilling a very real need of people all over the world. There are 81 million teachers in the world, and more teachers are needing or wanting to get a teaching license. The fastest growing school market in the world are what are called international schools. And they're also called English medium schools, where the curriculum is taught primarily in English. And those schools generally are paying more, but they're also requiring that teachers be certified. So we're fulfilling a huge need. The head of the Education Collaborative for International Schools, also referred to as ECIS, the head of ECIS has moved back to this area of the United States and actually shares office space with us. So we're very much involved in international teacher training at this point. And China is our fastest growing market.
Yeah, you most certainly are. And I think to any of the listeners listening in on this pod, I hope very much that from Emily, you really have got it from the, would I be right? The horse's mouth? Yes, I think that works. Mouth. I felt terribly bad when that was coming out of my mind. Of course, people, you know what I mean, Emily. But very much, it's an authentic, absolutely legitimate program, and I fully recommend it. So thank you, Emily, for putting us straight there.
If you're an English-speaking teacher from anywhere in the world and you have a bachelor's degree but need an official and accredited teaching license to get a job, get a visa to teach abroad, or most importantly to learn all those things you wish you knew before you stood in front of 30 plus students, then reach now to Teach Now and secure a professional US District of Columbia license in as little as 9 months. Online in no time, low cost, high quality. Teach Now. Get in the game. Immediately receive a $100 discount off your tuition by signing up to the Teach Now program via the link www.teach-now.edu/China Jedi.
May the smile be with you.